Hello, I'm Lanre Lasisi, and this is your parliamentary program, The Gavel. Now, as the year comes to an end and in preparation for the arrival of the 2017 budget proposal, committees of the National Assembly have been on oversight functions to ministries, departments, and agencies. These alongside the consideration of some bills and motions. The National Assembly paid special attention to the state of insecurity in the southern part of Kaduna State. The matter was considered in both chambers in separate motions. Plus, it's good news for some and not so good news for others as the Senate takes a decision on the issue of ambassadorial nominees that are seeking to be confirmed. Here is a report of the Senate's position on the matter.
In July this year, these career ambassadorial nominees were screened by members of the Senate's Committee on Foreign Affairs. An otherwise almost routine screening exercise generated headlines across the country as two of the nominees had difficulties in singing the national anthem. Fast forward to Tuesday's legislative proceedings, lawmakers are considering President Buhari's request for the confirmation of career and non-career ambassadorial nominees. The Senate begins with the career ambassadorial nominees. However, some lawmakers reminded their colleagues of a dismal showing of some of the career ambassadorial nominees at their screening exercise. Regardless of these issues, the Senate's Committee on Foreign Affairs is recommending that the career ambassadorial nominees be confirmed. It's time for the consideration of non-career ambassadorial nominees. It would be recalled that some lawmakers had earlier faulted the presidency for not including an ambassadorial nominee for the Federal Capital Territory. The non-career ambassadorial list would now be returned to the presidency for a review before it is sent back to the Senate for confirmation.
Now let's move on to a matter that continues to be of concern to lawmakers: reports of killings in the southern part of Kaduna State. The House of Representatives had considered a motion on the matter in October and resolved that there was a need for a state of emergency to be declared over the security situation in that area. But just a few weeks after, the matter is before the House of Representatives again. Here's the report. It's a matter that has come up repeatedly on the floor of the House. Reports of armed attacks on villages in the southern parts of Kaduna State. Once again, the matter is before the House of Representatives.
On the 13th to 14th of November 2016, heavily armed insurgents in large numbers invaded 6 villages, resulting in the killings of 43 people, consisting of children, women, and men, injuries to many, burning down 65 houses and other properties.
The debate that followed was passionate, with some lawmakers pointing to the possibility of the issue spreading to other areas.
Whenever there's an attack, you discover that there will be a way, as rightly said. In some cases, the soldiers, if you call them, they will tell you they don't have the mandate to repel an attack. In some cases, the soldiers will either sit and watch everything happen, and when the people come back on their own to repel the attack, the soldier will come again and attack the people and begin to arrest them.
This calls for serious concern, and it brings to fore the issue of state policing. It brings to fore the issue of review of arms carrying. If every citizen has right to carry arms, I'm sure that if you want to attack a community, you have a second thought. And that's what happened in the developed world.
The motion enjoyed the support of most lawmakers.
Those in favor of the motion as amended say aye. Those against it say nay. The ayes have it.
The leadership of the House is to meet with President Muhammadu Buhari to find a solution to the state of insecurity in the country. The House is also restating an earlier resolution that the federal government and the Kaduna state government should declare a security emergency in the southern Kaduna senatorial district of Kaduna State. The security situation in Kaduna South was also considered by the Senate, but they, however, arrived at a different resolution. Also, the National Assembly takes a position on the request for transfer of some funds in the 2016 budget. Let's take these reports.
The Senate has summoned the Inspector General of Police, Ibrahim Idris, to appear before its security committees to explain the failure of the Nigeria police to curb the incessant and mindless killings in the southern part of Kaduna State. The Senate made this decision after a federal lawmaker, Senator Danjuma, raised a motion calling for the declaration of a state of emergency in the area as a result of protracted killings of residents. According to Senator La, the incessant attacks by armed herdsmen on the people of southern Kaduna has led to the destruction of scores of lives and property worth billions of naira.
Senate is aware that there has been regular attack by armed herdsmen, the latest being the 15 and 16 October 2016 in Godogodo community in Jama local government area, as well as other communities in Kaura, Sanga, and Kauru local government areas, resulting in several deaths, injuries, and wanton destructions of properties worth billions of naira. Senate should call on the federal government to declare a security emergency in southern Kaduna senatorial district of Kaduna State. Senate should call on the federal government to actualize the resolve to set up a military battalion based in Kafanchan or some such other places in southern Kaduna senatorial district of Kaduna State.
And after weeks of speculation, the National Assembly has commenced consideration of the request by President Muhammadu Buhari for the virement of 180.8 billion naira in the 2016 budget. In both chambers of the National Assembly, a motion seeking for the request to be committed to the Committee on Appropriations, as well as relevant committees under whose supervision the affected MDAs fall, was moved and adopted without any debate. Many had anticipated a showdown over the request following the Senate's rejection of President Buhari's request for approval for a $29.9 billion loan. Majority Leader of the House, Rep. Femi Gbajabiamila, who moved the motion for the virement in the House, said the funds in question will be to address some recurrent and capital items in the 2016 budget.
The request was in respect of virement of funds appropriated for special intervention recurrent and special intervention capital to fund some critical recurrent and capital items. And the request was necessitated by a number of reasons, including shortfalls in provisions of personnel costs, the inadequate provision of the amnesty program, the need to sustain the war against insurgency, and the depreciation of the naira. Aware that in the course of implementing the Appropriation Act 2016, several ministries, departments, and agencies presented issues pertaining to salary shortfalls as it affects the MDAs that are not under the platform of Integrated Personnel and Payroll Information Systems, IPPIS. and some MDAs that are under the IPPIS platform will be locked out as their personnel cost budgets would not cover salaries for the rest of the year. Also aware that the Nigerian Air Force needs to cover the foreign exchange differentials in the procurement of its critical equipment and augment the contingency fund vote, and also to provide for inadequacy in the provision of the National Youth Service Corps in the 2016 budget, among others.
2 bills seeking to put in place stricter penalties for terrorism and also address the funding of terrorism have passed second reading in the House of Representatives. The bills, sponsored by Rep. Mohammed Monguno and Rep. Ahmed Keita, passed unanimously without a dissenting voice. The amendment seeks to increase penalty for terrorism to a minimum of 25 years or a maximum of life imprisonment, while sponsors of terrorism face the penalty of life imprisonment as those who commit the act itself. Under the new law in view, there is still a penalty for planning a terror act even when the act is not committed eventually.
For an act to constitute a criminal offense, it must be codified. So there is a need for us to codify actions that terrorists are now perpetrating that are hitherto not captured in the previous act. For example, the issue of relating to international terrorism funds, seizure of terrorists' cash and property, and also charities that are linked to terrorist activities. What these bills essentially seeks to do is for the purpose of reference when it comes to adjudication, that there is need for these 2 initial bills to be refilled, and then offenses that were hitherto not captured in the previous act to be captured, and then come up with a single act that deals with terrorism for the ease of reference and for ease of adjudication in our court.
As the society evolves, other ways of perpetrating a crime or any good thing evolve too. So for us to have a wider understanding and for us to be on the same page with almost all the countries affected by this menace, we need to constantly upgrade our laws to meet up with international standards so that we are able to check it both locally and internationally. Section 3 of the Principal Act is amended in a subsection by inserting the word even by proxy, which was not there. And we know that most of the crimes now that happen, especially related to terrorism, are done by proxy, either through finance or providing support. Then, in subsection B, substituting Figure 10 with Figure 25, Section 4.1 of the Principal Act is amended in paragraph inserting the press or their affiliate groups. As we all know, we have the ISIS of this world, we have the Boko Haram, we have so many things that are affiliated to terrorism, which is not encapsulated or which is not captured in the formal law.